It's Sports by the Book here from South Point Studio as we roll along in the college basketball conference tournaments. Along with my partner, Alex White, I'm Matt Neverett. There's our show intro on my computer as we really do get it rolling along. Should be a really fun show today. We were both on Punchlines with Frank Nicotero earlier, so we kind of previewed some of the games that we like today. 14 games on the slate, 2 of them on the extra games, and that'll be the real challenge, is if we have to get down to those games, that means that we've gone through the other 12. I don't think we'll have that issue running through a lot of these games today as the conference tournaments roll on. 3:15 here on the West Coast, we will have a fun guest in studio, a guy that you're pretty close with. It's the Wizard of Oz, Kenny White. Alex's dad will come in and give us his power ratings. We'll talk conference championships. We'll talk national championship futures and plenty more with Kenny as we continue to roll things along. And we had an all right day yesterday, you and I, with our picks.
Yeah, I think morning was a lot better than the evening for me. Really, those first 3 or 4 games were going very smoothly at like 4-0. And then the end things kind of just switched up a little bit. But we did have a money line parlay, some trends that we followed that did not come through for us as well.
Both Indiana State and UNC Wilmington bucking like 10-year trends in their respective conferences and both losing straight up as favorites. So that was one that we got. And then, of course, I was one of the unfortunate souls on North Dakota last night. They had a heartbreaker in their conference semifinals. So we're trying to get back up on the horse today. We're doing so with some new faces. Welcome to all of our bettors in North Carolina. North Carolina went active today with legalized sports gambling, so my mom in Raleigh can fire up an app and do some bets now.
That's fun. I'm glad you just brought that up. Good for us to know, and welcome. And that's very cool with your mom, too.
I don't think she will, but she has the option if she wants.
She has the option now, and she can listen to you and get some great advice.
We'll get Frank's mom, Rita, and my mom, Barb, on some legalized sports betting, because that's where we are litigation-wise in this country right now. So welcome all of our North Carolina friends. I have a lot of ties to North Carolina, and one of them, my alma mater, Appalachian State, yesterday, falling in a heartbreaker to Arkansas State, and that conference, the Sun Belt, really interesting this year. 2-horse race top to bottom with the App State Mountaineers and the Dukes of James Madison. That's where we'll start. It's a championship game in the Sun Belt. James Madison, no surprise. Arkansas State, a bit of a surprise to get there. And just taking a look at the seeding, James Madison number 2, Arkansas State number 4. James Madison had lost 3 games in the regular season, 2 of them to Appalachian State. So they were uber excited to see Arkansas State banking a game winner to close out the semifinals and face the Red Wolves, not the App State Mountaineers, in the championship. Right now, James Madison laying 5.5, a total of 153, which is high for a Sun Belt game, but these are 2 pretty prolific offenses. Did you have an opinion? Because I certainly do. This is one of my handful of bets in the day.
I thought the number was just right here, both on the side and the total. But you're right. You make a great point. James Madison, very fortunate not to have to face the number 1 seed in App State. So I would lean to the favorite a little bit here, but I didn't lay the points. What do you like in this?
Just to rib James Madison one final time before I give my pick. Since the Dukes joined the Sun Belt in football and basketball, they have not beaten App State once. One football game, 2 basketball games, but we'll take the short sample size. No, but I am on the Dukes. I laid the 5.5. This is a game where, one team cruised to the championship. James Madison won as a 10.5-point favorite yesterday. They won in their first game relatively easily. Arkansas State has had to scrap and claw their way really throughout the second half of the whole season. They kind of wedged their way in at the last second to the number 4 seed in this Sun Belt tournament. James Madison beat Arkansas State 77-74 in Jonesboro in their most recent matchup. James Madison, top 50 in turnover percentage on both offense and defense, whereas Arkansas State is 114th in the country in offensive turnover rate. How about 328th of 362 in forcing turnovers defensively? So I mentioned it to you earlier. I think that if James Madison can get a lead, I think they hold it. Another big factor is that James Madison, top 5 in the country in terms of defending the three-pointer in volume. So they don't give up a lot of threes. They don't turn the ball over a ton. And Arkansas State doesn't force any turnovers. Give me the Dukes laying the 5.5.
They play a lot faster, completely different game than Arkansas State played yesterday against App State, which you were all over that under as well. Hit easily. This one, a higher total here at 150, but it makes sense. James Madison is the 62nd fastest playing team in the country. So I like that reasoning. I think if they can get a big lead, they can hang on to it as well.
That's one of 2 championship games around the NCAA in conference play today. The other one, I really don't have a play on. It's in the SoCon. They're playing this one at Asheville. Number 7 seeded East Tennessee State taking on number 1 Samford. laying the 10.5. Are you a braver person than I, laying that 10.5?
No, I'm not. And I would be looking at the dog here because that's a lot of points. And I know Samford is the best team in this conference, but still 10 points in a championship game. But you made up a great point about East Tennessee State and how many games they have played to get to this point.
Yeah, so as the number 7 seed in this tournament, they've had to play, this will be their 4th game in 4 days. So tired defense. I could see Samford, who has been wire-to-wire leaders in the SoCon all year, really running away, but for my money, I'm not going to lay the 10.5. East Tennessee State also upset wins in back-to-back games to get to this point. So there's that, that factor of you build up so much, you have those big-time back-to-back wins, big-time second half comeback in the semifinal matchup. And then Samford, like I say with James Madison, not only winning easily to get to the championship, absolutely cruising through the regular season and the tournament. So I like Samford. But yeah, 10.5, just a little bit too much in these rivalry games in the conference tournament championship for the SoCon.
Yeah, a little too steep, but you're right. Samford has been by far the best team. They're the best offense in the country, second best in the conference. I'm sorry, not country. First best offense in this conference, second best defense, and they have been cruising. So I think they get the job done here and punch their ticket.
Just about every other game around the country is a semifinal in their respective conferences. There's a couple of quarterfinal matchups, but let's go to the Colonial. They're playing this one in Washington, D.C. This is another game I've got to bet on. 851, 852 on the betting rotation. Number 5-seeded Towson taking on top-seeded College of Charleston. Charleston, 6-point favorite, 139.5 on the total. This one actually just now getting underway, so it might be too late to get the bet in, but I thought it'd be interesting to just get a handicap because I have a play in this one.
It's no longer the Colonial, though. It's
the Coastal.
I keep doing this.
I know. That's the second time in 2 days I've done that. My apologies, Coastal Athletic Association. If I ever need a job, I know what conference I'm not going to call.
Very good. Okay, so I think the number's right. I do lean to Charleston in this one. They are the lowest turnover percentage in the conference, best offensive rating, second best three-point shooting percentage. So all their numbers and analytics say that they should take care of business and handle this one.
This one was interesting. There is that revenge spot. Charleston beat Towson in both of their regular season matchups. They also, or rather they split the regular season. Yeah. Towson was eliminated by Charleston in the semis in this same building last year in the CAA tournament. So there is that kind of historical perspective. And I would say it's tougher nowadays than ever to compare history between teams from year to year because the teams are just so different every year.
But wouldn't you say that they still hang on to that stuff?
I mean, the coaching is the same. As long as there's certain elements that are the same, you can draw some parallels. I think coaching is a really big one.
I mean, we've had ex-UNLV players come on and we'll bring up SDSU or Reno, right? And they will tell us about a game and bring up the past and that rivalry still. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it just kind of just keeps carrying over.
We'll see with all the NIL and transferring if that stays the same.
You're right.
We're talking about our guy Curtis Terry.
That's right.
Who's running
and
Rebel.
Steve Jones.
Steve Jones Jr. as well. Yeah, another former running Rebel. Yeah, still holding on to that hate in the conference. But this one, the number that stood out to me, and this was something that was pointed out to me online. So Charleston in both matchups against Towson this year put up 70-plus points. They're pretty prolific offense overall, especially in the CAA. Towson has only allowed, I should say, 70-plus points in 3 other conference games all year. They allowed 70 or more points in 5 conference games. 2 of them were to the College of Charleston. Towson has only scored 70 points in 1 of their last 5 games, including the tournament. So I think this one's a race to 70, and I laid it. I laid the 6 with Charleston. Okay. I think they're a much better team, much more well-rested team, and the metrics back that up. 102nd in the net, 104th in KenPom.
I agree with you. I think those are great numbers. It's very interesting about the 70 points that they allowed, and then Towson has only scored that.
Yeah, especially recent form. 1 out of the last 5 games heading into this matchup. Yeah. So, yeah, I like College of Charleston to breeze their way into the CAA championship. And I don't think either of us really have much on the other game. Stony Brook against Hofstra. The Pride laying 6 points, 853, 854, the betting number. How about the CAA getting the CBS Sports doubleheader?
Yeah.
That one's starting at 5:30. Not anything on that one?
Nothing on that one, really. Stony Brook, kind of like that East Tennessee, really just upset over upset, right, to get to the spot. Hofstra is the 3rd best team in the conference. Both Charleston and Hofstra have to be pretty happy that Drexel's not in this. Yeah. And so when we get to the end here, but yeah, I mean, Stony Brook's been a fun story. I have backed them leading up to this, but now at this point, I'm just going to stay away.
Let's move on to let's go to the Summit League semifinals. And we'll start with number 7-seeded Denver against 6-seeded Nebraska Omaha. This one, 861, 862 on your betting rotation. It opened Nebraska Omaha, -1.5, now down to about 1. The total, though, is what I've got my eye on in this game. It opened at 156.5, now down to 154. Both teams coming off of tight 1-point wins yesterday. I would lean to the under, even with the number moving in that direction. You're maybe not getting the best of it if you took advantage of that early line, but you're looking at two teams that split the series, road team taking each game during the regular season. And the Summit tournament has been low scoring in general out there in South Dakota.
Yeah, you're right. And you know what? These teams are lower in the conference. We have a 6 and a 7 seed right here in the semis, which is just unheard of. Not great offensively or defensively, these two with Denver and Omaha. So I don't mind that at all. Made the number pretty much right where it is, though.
My heart says Denver. I used to go to Pioneer basketball games all the time when I lived near the Mile High City. But if I had to play this one, it would be Omaha.
Okay.
We'll see. I mean, but again, really similar numbers, both coming off of 1-point wins. They featured just about the same across the board in this game. But you've got to play in the other semifinal, St. Thomas versus South Dakota State. I almost said at South Dakota State. The game is in South Dakota, but it is about an hour from Brookings, where South Dakota State is.
That's very interesting, right? And you said about 4 hours for St. Thomas.
Which at that region of the country is, just a hop, skip, and a jump over to the grocery store. Everything's so far away in that area of the country.
So I do like St. Thomas in this one, getting those 3 points. They're the best offense in the Summit League. South Dakota State, they are number 2, but they're very evenly matched, these two. South Dakota State won twice this year, 81-80. So St. Thomas kept it very close, and then 77-72 when South Dakota was at home. So I think that St. Thomas can definitely hang in this one. They're the second best turnover percentage in the league. They also have the most fast break points in the Summit League. And South Dakota State isn't great against the 3 and defending the 3. So I think they have a chance in this one, getting 3 points. I'll take the dog.
St. Thomas, since entering the Division I ranks, what was that, 3 years ago? They went from winning 0 games to really, really competing in their conference, and they're a team that is on the rise with not a lot of resources. I've seen pictures of the campus, heard that it's a compared to other schools, a rough place to play, especially in that area of the country. But they're doing they're doing a ton with not a lot up there in Minnesota.
Yeah, you're right. They did start very slow, take a little time.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah, but they're building up. So we'll see how they hang in this one against the number 1 seed.
We'll keep it in that region of the country. About 5 minutes away from Kenny White hopping on and breaking down some more of these games, some conference championships and some national championship futures as well. But in the Big Sky, the only quarterfinals of a conference tournament going on today, really interesting pair of matchups. Montana State and Weber State, Portland State against Montana. 867, 868, Montana State and Weber State. That's the 5 versus the 4 seed. Weber State a 5.5-point favorite. Again, the total is what I've got my eye on in this game. Opened 143, now down to 140 and even 139.5 at certain books. This game starting here at 4:30. I'm on the over. I'm going to go against the move. It opened 143, now down to 140. So if you go with the over, you're getting the better of the value. The average combined points per game total of these two teams this year, 149.5. So that's a pretty big difference. Average total of Weber State games is 142. Average total of Montana State games this year, 148.5. So this number, I think people playing it into the tournament, the fatigue, that this time of year factor, I can see all those factors. But with the way that these teams have played, all we have to go off of as people who have not followed these specific teams day in and day out are trends, numbers, patterns that we've seen develop. And I'm going to go against the move here and go over 140.
Really interesting, right? We have the 4 and 5 seed here in the semis. And then the next game, we do still have a 2 seed, but no 1 seed left in this conference, the Big Sky. And Portland State is 6 seed going up against Montana. So it's pretty wide open. And I think this is a big game for these two, the 4 and 5. I'm going to take the points with the dog here in Montana State. 2 best defenses in the league. These two split in the regular season, so we know that they can hang in there. Weber State 186-64 at home, and then Montana State 176-64 at home as well. Weber State bottom 3rd in bench points compared to Montana State, who is at the top in this conference. Montana State is also the best 3-point shooting percentage in the Big Sky. As long as they're making their shots, they can definitely hang in this one, but I'm taking the 6.5 with the dog.
You want to make a field trip to the Idaho Central Arena in Boise for this one?
Idaho Central, what?
We may run out of time. We may run out of time as this game's getting going here in about an hour, 15 minutes. You want to hit one?
Is that where it is?
I just happened to look. Alex did a great job today of having us prepared. Woo. We've got brackets for every tournament. I need 2 hands. We got brackets for every tournament. We've got our South Point Conference Championship odds sheets, and we'll talk plenty of these with Kenny White coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But if you're at the South Point or you're nearby, stop on down, take a look at the app as well for the latest odds. South Point really does things a little bit differently. It's beneficial to the better, a lot of the things that Chris Andrews and his crew do behind the glass. You want to do 1 or 2 more before we bring Kenny on?
Sure. What do we got? Oh, we got the WCC.
That's exactly where I was going to go. 2 games taking place just down the road at the Orleans Arena right off Tropicana Boulevard, and taking some of our staff. That's where Ryan McCormick is today and tomorrow, helping out on the production crew there. He's going to be treated to some great games. It's the top 4 seeds are the only ones still in the WCC. That's why they design it the way they do, with the gauntlet of games to get to this point. We've got number 4 Santa Clara, number 1 St. Mary's. You got number 3 San Francisco against number 2 Gonzaga. Which one jumped out to you first?
Honestly, I guess Gonzaga. I like how this team is playing right now. I think they're going to take care of business and make it to the championship game yet again. They just beat San Francisco by 14. It was 86-68. So I know it's a lot of points. 9, a little bit under that double digit, but I think that's my favorite play.
I saw Gonzaga as low as 7.5. So all the steam coming in late on Gonzaga. This San Francisco team got some late action as far as the conference future bets.
Right, they did.
I never really bought in. It's Gonzaga, it's St. Mary's, or it's bust. In the other matchup, though, I kind of like Santa Clara to keep it close to the Gales. That one was at 9. I would be surprised if it had moved too much because all the action likely coming in on that later game. But, yeah, Santa Clara, St. Mary's, 9-point spread favoring the Gales in a game that starts at 6 on ESPN. I think Santa Clara, who has won 3 of their last 4 games, 3 of the last 4 wins, I should say, have been by double digits. When they get hot, they really get hot. And I don't know if they pull the upset. Oh, man, it's up to 11. I love it with Santa Clara.
Yeah, and, you've got double revenge here. St. Mary's won both games in the regular season, 73-49. That's a little scary, but 82-77, their second one. So Santa Clara did keep it a lot closer in that one. But I think that number's just about right here. I made it 10. So nothing for me here, but I can understand why you would take the dog.
Yeah, I'm not in. It's just a lean for now, but I like the Broncos to keep it within 10.
Yeah.
We'll see what they can do here. That game starting at 6 o'clock at the Orleans Arena. You can watch it on ESPN. Take a 2-minute break here on Sports by the Book. When we return, the Wizard of Odds himself, Kenny White, joins us on the desk. We're talking college basketball. We'll talk some NFL as well. Don't think we forgot about you, National Football League. Plenty of moves, plenty of topics coming up. Don't go anywhere. This is Sports by the Book.
From the South Point studio, the perfect blend of sports.
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
Comedy.
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
Yeah.
I am beautiful. And a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Join Ryan McCormick.
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
And host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock, I go, ah! Ah!
Oh! Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
You're tuned into Sports by the Book here at South Point Studios. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. South Point Studios on YouTube. We're trying to get up to 2,000 subscribers. We are at 1.333 repeating subscribers. 1,000 subscribers. That'd be bad. 1.3 subscribers. 1.3 thousand plus subscribers here at South Point Studios. Along with Alex White, I'm Matt Neverett. And joining us now on the desk, the man, the myth, the legend, Kenny White, the Wizard of Oz, as we take a look at some college basketball matchups for today, conference matchups or conference tournament matchups. We'll take a look at some futures as well. But Kenny, we were talking off camera. One of the games that you have a strong opinion on is one that your daughter and I did not, and that's Stony Brook at Hofstra in the CAA semifinals. Hofstra, a 6-point favorite. That game at 5:30, the second end of that CBS Sports doubleheader. What jumped out to this game, or to you, I should say, about this game?
Well, man, I don't know if I would say strong opinion, but it's
stronger than us.
It's a difference in my betting number and what the line is, and also in these tournament games. I think the one big edge that I always look for is a team that's lost twice during the regular season. So it's tough to beat it. They always say it's tough to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. Well, I'm getting 8 points now, so I don't have to win the game. I can stay in the game. Stony Brook's also 6-0 ATS their last 6 games. So they're playing well. They've won 2 games in the tournament already. That's confidence. You see these teams that have bad regular seasons but start to play better at the end of the season. Those are teams you want to jump on, especially when they're getting 8 points. Stony Brook thinks they're going to win the game today, and we're getting 8.
What changes for you, if anything, come tournament time? Is it the fact that you set your own numbers and maintain your own power ratings throughout the year? I guess I should say that really doesn't change anything for you. You just kind of continue it on throughout these conference tournaments. Does the neutral site aspect play into your numbers at all?
Well, yeah, of course. Home court is so big in most sports, but really big in college basketball. Maybe the biggest home court. I did a study years ago. Soccer was the biggest home advantage of any sport there was.
Interesting.
But basketball's next. Baseball's the least. Baseball's the least amount of home field advantage of any sport. But yeah, that plays a definite edge. Some teams play far better on the road than other teams do, and you need to pay attention to that. One team tonight, I like Santa Clara. Excellent team this year. They played great on the road and away from home.
Now, do these lower conference teams, like the Coastal Athletic Association, where maybe these teams play one neutral site game a year, how do you factor that into your number if there is no past neutral site experience for these teams come tournament time?
Yeah, I don't even really look at that. I don't even look at the teams. These teams are so different from the teams that were playing in December and playing on neutral courts. Even the top 10 teams in the country, they're completely different teams now from when they were then. So that, for me, it's all a numbers thing. It's not even about the names of the teams. It's just numbers is what I'm betting. And when I'm coming on a show to talk with you guys today, I got to write some notes down. Even if Stony Brook wasn't 6-0 ATS in their last 6 and they were 1-5 and my numbers say that the game should only be 4, I'm still taking the 8 with Stony Brook. So, they're bullet points for me. But again, it's I'm not betting teams. I'm really just betting numbers.
Question for you about totals, because I've been staying away from overs here down in the stretch and tournament time. Do you feel the same way? I know you like unders anyways, but are you really just looking for, or if your number pops and it says an over, are you okay taking it even in a tournament?
Yeah, well,
game?
I'm like everybody else. I love overs. I'm watching since you've been on this show, I've been watching so many shows because, I'm watching you guys and all of a sudden I forget and there's another show playing right after you guys. And it's then another show and I'm listening to all of them and it's like amazing. Everyone's on over on almost every bet, everything, every prop. If you just looked at 100 props, a guaranteed 95 of them are over bets, and that's the way people like to bet. I love a good over myself, but I do try to bet more unders as possible.
We're going to have to call Frank Nicotero and tell him that he is in that 95%. May not be the right 95%, but he's in the majority of those guys that like the overs. Yeah, that's always interesting to see kind of how that trend changes during the year.
Whoever bet those over props for the Knicks players last night is hurting as well.
Yeah,
you see
or
that
Sixers.
Final?
No, yeah, I saw the final.
Yeah.
That was my biggest difference on the board. I only had I made the total 196, and
wow.
I went under 212 for more than I normally would bet because I said I'm going to have a 3-4 point middle. The game tipped off 211. It barely moved. I was really shocked. Without Maxey, the Sixers offense is horrendous. He's such a big time player for them. You lose Embiid and you lose Maxey.
Right.
Those are 2 of the top 20 offensive players in the game.
Yeah, that was a crazy one last night. And not in the way that most people like it to be crazy.
Oh, no.
Every single Knicks starter went under their point total prop, and it's a miracle that any 76er or any player in that game went over their prop. But we'll keep it on the hardwood at the college level. You mentioned Santa Clara, and right before we went to break, I had mentioned, too, that the Broncos had been playing really well coming in, and while they may not win the game, the line's all the way up to 11. I love the Broncos to cover that double-digit spread.
Yeah, again, another game where St. Mary's won both regular season games. Now, how does St. Mary's react? 16-game winning streak snapped at home by the Zags. Is the bubble burst? They know they're in the NCAA tournament, so this is really not that motivating of a game. Now, the only thing is you do learn more from a loss, and coaches would rather go into the tournament with a loss late in the year because, especially with a team that's played this well. So I don't know what to expect. I did take the points with Santa Clara, and I went under. What I'm hoping for is St. Mary's to really play slow and deliberate on offense like they normally do, but play really good defense.
Yeah, it's the WCC tournament has been an interesting one, mostly because of the layout of the tournament itself. And we were talking before this show took the air about why these tournaments have different layouts. And for a tournament like the WCC, they want their number one seed, usually Gonzaga, this year St. Mary's, but they want their best team to have the best shot to go into the NCAA tournament with the most amount of rest and the least amount of wear and tear on them.
They may have been the first conference to kind of juggle their tournament so that their 1 and 2 seed goes that far out. This year was the first year I gave Alex the assignment of learning those conference tournaments because you need to know everything about them so that when you're betting in February, who needs the game and who doesn't. But you just asked me a couple of questions earlier, one about the neutral site and how do I handle that, but also that's a great question because is it a neutral site sometimes or is it not? And if you've ever been, and I'm sure you've been to many games here, it's been a while since I've been to one of these games, but when I went, and this was probably 8-9 years ago, Gonzaga had 90% of the fans.
Oh yeah, they always travel.
So that's a home court advantage. Even though they're playing in Vegas, all home court advantage is how loud the crowd can be to dictate the officiating on in the game or whatever, the court, wherever they're playing, the field. The crowd is loud, and that's why soccer is such a great home field. If you ever watch a European soccer game in the Premier League, those crowds are so loud, and they dictate calls on the pitch, and they will dictate calls in this game. So I give 4 points for the Zags playing in the New Orleans arena because they have all the fans. When I went, now St. Mary's probably has more fans, but they had a little patch of about 100 people sitting up there, and the rest of the place was 9,000 Gonzaga fans, and they win it every year because of that. One of that factor, they're better, but that factor is a 4-point edge.
And now, one of the tournaments that's in Vegas that's coming up is the Mountain West. Starts on Wednesday. It is UNLV playing at the Thomas and Mack Center against San Diego State. Now, that game doesn't tip off until Thursday, but for UNLV, it is a home game, but counted as a neutral site game. So every now and then in these tournaments, you'll have to keep an eye out of just the host site. There's a little bit more detail, not a lot. It doesn't even take that much more to just take a look at the site and the relation of where it is. Or like we were talking about earlier with South Dakota State, the game's in South Dakota. Everyone just assumes it's right in their backyard. No, it's an hour drive.
Right.
It's pretty close for them, but still further away than a lot of people would be willing to go.
And this is only a 5-hour drive for San Diego. So every year's different, though. When the Rebels were down, there'd be more Aztec fans here than Rebel fans. But it looks like the Rebel fan base is getting back. I haven't been to a game in a while. I know Alex has been there. But I watched the game the other night, San Diego State and UNLV, and thought it was a great spot for the Rebels, win the bet. But I wanted to watch that game closely. The crowd sounded great. They were chanting Rebels the entire game. They were chanting defense. I felt like their home court, when they were in their heyday with Tarkanian, that court was worth 6.5 points.
Oh, yeah.
When they hit their low level, that home court was worth 1.5 points. There was 1,000 people in the crowd at most times. It wasn't reported that way because season ticket holders. But when you don't have anybody in a building and you can hear a pin drop, there's no home edge. There's really more edge for the opponent at some time. So, but I think right now there's enough Rebel fans that you're going to have to give 3.5, 4 points for the Rebels in that game.
And now Matt and I have talked about this, but it's pretty unfortunate for the Rebels. They're the 4 seed and have SDSU as the 5 seed. They have to play them first, even though they work to get this double bye. Can they do it? Can they beat them back to back like this?
Yeah, not much of a double bye, but you do have to win less games. So instead of winning 4 games, you only have to win 3 games. They are coming off a loss too. So yeah, they can beat them back to back. There's no doubt they can. I think the game's going to be very similar. I don't think they get out to a huge lead and San Diego State comes flying back, but I do think it's a similar type game. Very defensive.
Yeah.
Hey, they really bottled up San Diego's big guy,
Jaden Ledee,
and Player of the Year. Great,
Just
he's going to be an NBA guy. They did a great job defensively. I think they do another same thing. They're gonna play the same defense. It's going to be a low scoring game, and I think the Rebels do win.
Let's take a look at these Mountain West odds that we have up. We were talking about these are the closest odds we have of any conference tournament, right?
Yeah, 7 teams at under 7 to 1 or less in the Mountain West, and it is potentially a 7-bid league with the right results. Now, I don't think we're going to get 7. I think 5 is a more likely result, and I would say as far as the at-large bids, San Diego State, Utah State, Nevada, Boise State, they're in. If somebody else wins the tournament, I think that's the only way that this conference gets 5 bids. But as far as the conference odds themselves, and you really got to take a look at the bracket for this one, is there any team that jumps out to you, maybe some value in a shorter shot like a New Mexico or a Colorado State?
Yeah, well, I would have loved to have gotten like 10-1 on the Rebels, but obviously the way they played down the stretch, there was no way that was going to happen because I was always, knowing that they're playing on their home court and you're adding 4 points to their power rating, it puts them right up there with Boise State and Utah State. So this is a roll of the dice. I think it's any of these teams can win. You got 7 teams, you got 6 numbers on that die. Bookmaker's dream, I think. Any one of these teams could win this tournament. And to me, looking at these numbers, I don't see a clear edge. I do see one team that, at plus 280 at San Diego State, that's definitely not deserving. I've watched Utah State play. I've watched Boise. I've watched them all play, basically. And I think that New Mexico's as good as San Diego State. So I would fade San Diego State. That would be the only thing that I could say.
Yeah, New Mexico is a tough matchup. There are not a lot of schools that have the depth at guard to be able to keep up with both Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn Jr., who didn't play in that final game of the regular season against Utah State. And,
And I don't know why Mashburn didn't play. I still don't know yet. He was sick?
He woke up sick.
Okay.
He had to have been really sick.
That was a last-minute thing, and the line never moved. The line actually went down.
Really?
Yeah, so I actually bet on Utah State in the second half when they were losing, thinking there's no Mashburn. It's a good spot for Utah State. But New Mexico, very competitive. They know they need to win, and I think they need to win this tournament to get in the NCAA tournament.
I do too.
I think
and
so
they have
too.
a pretty easy
bracket,
Yeah, they have Air Force first. Then they will have Boise State again, but
really, in that bottom half of the bracket, for me, it's either New Mexico or Nevada coming out of that bottom half, and I think Nevada is certainly a team to watch. UNLV's scary. If they can get past San Diego State, I think that they have a shot to legitimately not only get to the title game, but really give them a shot. UNLV, a tough matchup for a lot of these teams, but that tournament starting Wednesday, UNLV will play San Diego State on Thursday. That's the only second-round matchup that's been decided, a unique bracket in the Mountain West because the top 5 seeds have that first-round bye. What's another matchup for tonight that you're taking a look at, Kenny?
Tonight I got Omaha. They're playing Denver. Omaha's minus 1.5. This is a Summit League game, and Omaha just came off. They beat North Dakota, who's better than the team they're playing tonight, Denver.
I was on North Dakota last night. Heartbreaker.
It was a heartbreaker. That was a really tough game. I was leaning to North Dakota. Did not bet the game, but that's who I would have bet. So kind of glad that I'm not getting caught in the switches here, betting the opposite side. Denver, outstanding offensive team, but terrible defensively. And when I'm betting teams in conference tournaments, I got to bet defense. That's when you look at the NCAA tournament and the Cinderella stories are the teams that can play defense. Mm-hmm. That's why they're Cinderella stories, because they play defense. Teams that can't play defense, they do not win at this time of year, and that's Denver. So Omaha's minus 1.5. I think it's really, really good play.
And to your point, Kenny, Denver 356th out of 362 in defensive efficiency on Ken Pump. So they're not just bad. They're bottom 10 in the country. They are abysmal.
So it should be Enver.
Yeah, exactly. No D. That's what I used to make that joke with Mike D'Antoni and his 7-second or less philosophy on offense. It's just Mike Antoni because there's no D. Yeah.
That's right.
What about one more, and then we'll move on to some football, because some crazy news in football today. What's one more matchup?
Big Sky. Well, the Santa Clara. I played Santa Clara, and I also played that game under. As I said, I hope it's a very low-scoring game. Points at a premium. That makes that 11.5 look that much better. But I also took Montana State. I got 7.5. Again, shop around for the best number you can. The market's 7, and I try to teach people, if you take 7 right now, everybody can take 7, everybody can lay 7. You really got a 50-50 shot to win that game. But if you can take 7.5, you increase your chances of winning by 1%, maybe even 1.5%. If it's at a key number, if it's on and off 3, a one-possession game, it's almost worth 2%. So you're giving yourself that much better a chance to win a bet. So take the 7.5 with Montana State. They're playing Weber, who's a very, very good team. But these are the 2 best defensive teams in the Big Sky. I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a really close game.
Alex was on that.
Well.
Alex was on that point earlier. Two really good defensive teams.
Before we get to football, I want to ask you one thing about the WCC, because as you were talking about St. Mary's, you are on the other side. You like the points of Santa Clara. But if it does come down to these two with St. Mary's and Gonzaga, we saw Gonzaga win the second matchup. If they wouldn't have and St. Mary's would have won that, I think everybody would have been on the Zags really easily, right? Especially it's hard to beat the same team 3 times. Now they split the regular season. They come into this championship game, if it is those two, I mean, both ready to go. Do you have an edge? Do your power ratings have a certain one of them higher than the other, or just I don't know.
Well, you asked me that the other night if I bet it, because I gave it out on the show here, but the Zags were 100-1.
I think that was the day before my birthday. I think that was January 23rd.
Oh, wow. That's right. I was here.
Gonzaga, and Matt and I were like, ooh,
it means you're entitled to some of the winnings as a birthday present if they pull it off.
Oh, yeah, I guess you could do that. I only bet 100, though, so it pays $10,000, though. So.
There you go. Pretty good present.
Yeah, I should have bet more, but I didn't, because I think I have so many other teams in the tournament that day. I bet Colorado, and I bet Clemson, I think, also that day. I think 2 good basketball teams. But I have the Zags 4.5 points better.
Okay.
And you're going to give 4 points for home. But I will give 2.5 points for home revenge for St. Mary's. They lose in the last game at their place, so I'd make the Zags about 6 in that championship game.
What do you think about the Zags' chances of being an at-large team if they were to lose today, or if they were to lose in the championship game against St. Mary's? Because there's been some debate as to whether or not they deserve to be in. They've got some really high-profile losses and really didn't kind of come into their own until the second half of conference play. So what are your thoughts? If Gonzaga loses in the tournament, are they in the March Madness bracket?
Oh, yeah, well, for sure. In my book, they are, because I've got them rated so high. Mm-hmm. I think they're a top 15 team in the country. I think they're going to be in the Sweet 16. I think they're that good. I mean, I've thought St. Mary's should have been in so many years as well, but they were never in my top 20. They were maybe in my top 35, top 40, somewhere in that area, but love the coach, Coach Bennett, love that team. I've always liked that program, and I've always thought they should have deserved the opportunity to be there, and the only reason they weren't there was because the Zags were so good. So, but now that, they've gotten to another level, this conference has gotten 2 bids now, haven't they, a couple times in the last 5 years?
A couple of times, yeah. It's not the norm. And
right.
For a long, long time, it was Gonzaga or bust.
Right.
Running roughshod through that conference tournament for years. But yeah, the rest of the conference starting to catch up. St. Mary's was first.
Yeah.
We're starting to see Santa Clara, and then all of a sudden, here come the Dons. The fighting Bill Cartwrights coming out and really starting to shake some things up. They got a lot of action here at the South Point to win that conference tournament.
Oh, San Francisco did.
Yeah, more so than a lot of the other teams.
Very interesting.
Chris Andrews told us the other day. So, yeah, just some interesting thoughts on some of these conference tournaments, and definitely keep an eye on some of your writings and some of your thoughts. Have you been able to keep up with a lot of these football transactions going on today? Because there's been a ton of them now that the new league year has started.
I heard that as I got out of the car in valet. I said, he asked how long I'd be here. I said, probably about an hour. I'm going to do the show over at South Point Studios. And he said, wow, a lot happened in the NFL today. And I said, oh, yeah, what was that? He says, well, Cousins went to the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep. That's the big one. Are you surprised that it's a 4-year deal? They're diving in head first to the Kirk Cousins pool.
Boy, how old is Kirk Cousins now? 33, 34?
Something like that. Coming off of a torn Achilles. Him and Russell Wilson are the same age.
Oh, the torn Achilles, too. I forgot about that.
Talk about a robbery. One's playing for $1.2 million this year. Kirk Cousins just signed a 4-year deal for $100 million plus.
Yeah, he's 35 years old.
Crazy.
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, oh boy. Yeah, I would not have done that. No.
He was
absolutely
playing great
not.
Ball before
it moved their odds a little bit. The other quarterback signing, Russell Wilson to the Steelers, didn't move any odds. A little bit of division juice coming in on the Steelers just because of the signing, but yeah, they stay at 75-1 where they were before the signing. And I think that kind of tells you where the public thought is and the betting numbers accordingly on Russell Wilson as a player at this point.
Well, Russell Wilson had a bad year his last year as a Seahawk, and then his first year in Denver, horrible year. And then everybody thought maybe the coaching change, he'd be better. But so it's 3 straight average years. He's an average NFL quarterback. Him and Kenny Pickett are about the same.
Ooh, wow. And then Gardner Minshew is coming here to Las Vegas.
That's a good one. I've always liked Gardner Minshew, yeah.
We were saying 2 years, $25 million, which is a little steep for what he brings, but that's kind of just the going rate.
Yeah, that's amazing.
To be kind of a bridge guy. He's going to get them 2 solid years.
Yeah.
And, it is an open quarterback competition. They've already said with Aiden O'Connell, I'd be surprised if it wasn't Gardner Minshew opening day. And I'll be interested to see how Devontae Adams kind of meshes with that quarterback tandem. Raiders also in the news, signing Christian Wilkins to a multi-year deal. So that defensive pass rush is going to be freakish. The Raiders just going with, if you include Josh Jacobs signing with the Packers, they're literally just going all in on the defensive line and then just hoping the offense can score 20 a game. It's interesting what the Raiders are trying to do, but they are going all in on defense with Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby lining up across from each other.
That's good. You need to have a good defense. You don't win without defense, that's for sure. But I didn't think about salaries. I don't follow salaries. I could care less about salaries a lot of times, but the one thing that comes to mind with salaries comes with pressure. Mm-hmm. And, you think about the Patriots and how many Super Bowls they won and who was the most underpaid quarterback in the game because he was always deferring was Tom Brady. He never had that big contract. He never signed for 5 years, 20 million or 50 million or 100 million, whatever it was. He never did. So it was almost like he was playing for a new contract for the next year. That's the kind of guys I like to go after. And that's the kind of guys I like to bet on that are hungry, that are playing for that new contract, not the guys who just signed that big contract.
We talk about like a Juan Soto with the Yankees on that 1-year prove-it deal before he gets that mega contract that's going to be upcoming. We're going to bring in Jimmy Vaccaro. He's been hanging out in the studio. He's got something to say.
Hey, Jimmy.
Our old friend Jimmy. Wherever you want, Jimmy.
I just want to tell you guys something that shows you the growth of what March Madness.
Yeah, we'll get you on this mic. So something that shows the growth of March Madness as a whole, and you've seen enough of them to know the difference. Here, you can hop on this one.
No, I'm okay.
We're not going to be able to. Nobody's going to. I'm doing great, Jimmy.
We used to be younger. Here, come on. All right. Two things. First of all, with the futures and everything else, it's great for the books because people start betting now, and the decision will be made for like a year. So anytime you get future money, just keep piling it on, and we'll sort it out later. But the reason I called is like something that's been growing the last 10 years. Obviously, March Madness is insane, and we love it. More and more business. One little way you can cut through all that insanity is, let's say you live in California, like Bakersfield or in Arizona, whatever, and you're close to Las Vegas. You come down, like this weekend, and you sign up for a phone account. Because now when you go home, all you have to do is travel across the line from California to Nevada, then you can make bets like you have a phone account here. So, some people do it more and more doing it because if you come here, you wait 45 minutes to make a bet, which is great because we are just all over the map. But like some people, it's a convenience. So don't be afraid to come in on the weekends, sign up, and then every time that you want to make a bet, and you just take, back and take a trip over the line, and you're allowed to make a bet. So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. No, I appreciate that. I've done that with some welcome offers in Arizona. Just drive across the Hoover Dam, and about 10 minutes up the road, Jeff Parles and I were.
You're not the only person who's done that.
Comparing horror stories of trying to get some cell phone coverage at some of those lots that you pull off into. So that is a good point. Yeah, and South Point does a really good job of presenting just all of the options. They're not like other books where they try to hide or try to, move a number or whatever. You know what you're going to get. What you see is what you get with these guys, and I think that's what I like the best.
When New Jersey opened up their sports betting, the busiest Starbucks in the world was the one across the George Washington Bridge from New York City. And people would just drive across the bridge and get out of the car or sit in the parking lot and make their bets and then go back home.
That is hilarious. Yeah, we also, today is when North Carolina went live in sports betting. So welcome to our North Carolinian friends. Mentioned that earlier. My mom lives in Raleigh, so I said she could go make a bet. Alex was like, I'm sure she will. If she does, I would be more surprised than if Air Force won the
Well, you need to teach her how to take advantage of those bonuses that
exactly
each account will give away.
Especially in the new state. Well, I wanted to go back. So something Jimmy said was talking about futures for college basketball. You mentioned the Gonzaga future you have, 100-1 to win the tournament. Are there any other futures that you have placed a bet on?
Oh, I have Arkansas. A lot of money on Arkansas.
Yeah. What number do you like? What number do you have there?
They have to win the SEC tournament to get in. But they were one of my top 5 rated teams in the country when I rated these teams. They're transfer U. They brought in 8 new guys, studs. They just probably never meshed together. Great talent. But yeah, I probably have I've got over a couple $1,000 on Arkansas, and I've got him as high odds as 300 to 1.
Wow. I love Eric
Yeah.
Musselman. He's just such a high energy coach.
Yeah.
He makes it a point. If you look at his Twitter, he tweets all these out. He wears a different minor league baseball shirt, hat, shorts, something different from a minor league baseball team every day at practice.
Oh, I didn't
And
know
as a
that.
minor league guy myself, I love that. So
Yeah, so
Gonzaga,
that's the bad one. You know, I think everybody else I've got's going to win. Be in the tournament. The Huskies, Connecticut, the champs from last year. I gave them out last year, so they were a 4 seed. I said, 4 seed, they should be a 3 seed or a 2 seed at worst a 3 seed, and that was one of my best teams last year. And win the tournament with them. I have them again this year. I think they're the best team in college basketball by 5 points. I make them 5 over anybody on a neutral court.
Wow.
So I think they got a really good chance to repeat. I got them at 15 to 1 and then 12 to 1. I think they're about 6 to 1 right now. Another one that I had was Tennessee. I think they're solid. I didn't like how they played the last game, but I actually did because Alex pointed out to me, Kentucky, you betting Kentucky? And I said, yeah, definitely betting Kentucky. Tennessee just won the conference. I mean, these teams have ups and downs. Look at Arizona. They win the Pac-12 conference tournament at UCLA, and they had a lot of fans there, too. And they had a lot of fans at the USC game, but those guys were not ready to play. They didn't want to play a basketball game that night. So you have to know who's motivated and who's not. So when you're doing power ratings, if you're just adjusting off scores, somebody's going to lower Arizona's power rating for that game. But why? You know, they didn't care. They didn't want to be there. Same thing with Tennessee. Yeah. If you lowered their power rating against the game against Kentucky, you're not adjusting properly. Tennessee's got a great defense, and they finally have an offensive team. I think Tennessee's the one team who right now still offers the most value of anybody.
They're scary.
What about Kentucky? You could move them up a little bit again in that game against Tennessee, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
And
I could adjust them.
as of late.
Yeah,
really.
no, winning straight up. But, you know, again, when the opponent doesn't show up, it doesn't matter. It could have been Vanderbilt that beat Tennessee that day because those guys win. They win. This next game means absolutely nothing, and it meant so much to Kentucky.
Poor Vanderbilt. They're always the punching bag of the SEC jokes. Hey, they brought it on
Hey,
themselves.
they got a good baseball program,
That's
though.
true.
Come on.
That's about it, though.
Yeah, they've
brought it
always
on
been good in
themselves by
baseball. So
being bad in football and basketball for years and years and years.
Let's take a look at these SEC conference numbers and see if you two like anything there. But I think this conference is really interesting, especially with the top teams there. And Tennessee, I mean, they're projected right now to have a 1 seed in the tournament. I don't even think they need to win this tournament to keep that spot. I mean, it's between them and Arizona for the big dance. But
well, if it's between those two, I think whoever wins their conference tournament goes the furthest.
So you think they do need to actually win?
Yeah, probably to get that 1 seed. But I don't think that. I mean, it's nice, but I don't think coaches are preaching that. I don't think they're going out and saying we need to win to get the 1 seed.
Right.
They're not doing that. They're, hey, let's play our game. We need to continue to work. We need to continue to get better. The kids, on the other hand, are thinking, care about this tournament. Let's get the NCAA tournament started and go there. So who's really motivated in this conference tournament right now? Mississippi State, are they in or out right now? I don't know. I haven't looked lately. I'll look, later on today when I get home. It's one of the jobs I have to do. But because I've been too busy betting college baseball.
Oh, that is awesome.
Mississippi State's still on the bubble.
So they're on the bubble. That's a team that I would look at. I think they play really good defense. I think they're a very talented team. They may only be the 6th best team in this conference, but I think you have a couple teams that know they're in, maybe 4 teams that know they're in already. The other one's South Carolina. They've had a great year. A little disrespected, maybe a 50 to 1. That's a team that I think they're very motivated to play well in this tournament.
And it's also interesting in the SEC specifically because you've got some pretty contrasting styles. You've got Alabama, you've got Kentucky, who can put up 100 against anybody any night, but then you've got stifling defenses like Auburn, like Tennessee. So I think that some of these individual matchups are going to be really fun to watch. Tennessee, the 1 seed, Kentucky 2, Alabama 3, Auburn 4. So even with the contrasting styles, those are the top 4 teams. I like that point against South Carolina. They have played a lot of really close games in the SEC, games that could have gone the other way with 1 or 2 different possessions.
Yeah, this is a team that plays really good defense. And again, that's what I, preach that all the time. Find a good defensive team who's motivated. Texas A&M's 3rd best defensive team in the SEC, and South Carolina's number 4. Mississippi State's number 5. So these are really strong defensive basketball teams that are really highly motivated right now. And when you're looking for this tournament's not the end-all be-all. Tennessee's in, Alabama's in, Kentucky's in, Auburn's in.
Right.
How motivated are they for this tournament?
Now, if you look at the conference tournament numbers, there are 6 teams at minus money to win their respective conference. One of them is in the toughest conference in the country. Houston, a minus 140 favorite to win the Big 12. Is there value on either Iowa State at 7-2 or Baylor at 7-1?
Maybe the 7-1 with Baylor because they are the third best team in the conference. But again, they're more of an offensive juggernaut this year than they are defensively. The one team I like is Texas. I'm not really sold yet maybe on the basketball coach there, Terry. Not sure if he is the right guy or not.
Can't do horns down around him.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And their defense hasn't been as good. I'm just looking at what they're doing right now defensively has not been that good. Cincinnati's the third best defensive team in the conference, and they're at 100-1 right now. That's the kind of team that I like to bet on because, again, you look at the St. Peter's of the world, the Cinderella stories, why they got there. A lot of it has to do with continuity of teams, the guys that have played together for a couple of years, and they play defense. So Cincinnati's a team that's playing great defense right now. Third best in this conference. That's pretty good.
I like that as a long shot.
Yeah.
You skipped my team, which is Iowa State, who is the second best defense in the country. I have them to win it all, though. 50
you want them to win a different tournament.
That's right. I do.
Yeah, that's true.
Is there any other odds in any of these conferences that jumped out to you when you saw them come out the other day? I mean, one that jumped out to me right away was Creighton in the Big East at 7-2 as well. Just some with some value. I mean, you look at the Big West, and you've got UC Irvine is the biggest favorite on the board right now to win their conference at minus 210. UC Davis at 4-1, Hawaii at 8-1. Just a couple of the ones that had jumped out to me. Were there any numbers that really popped when you took a look at the odds?
Yeah, there was a couple. Pittsburgh in the ACC.
Frank's going to love you today.
12-1. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, Frank, I like Pittsburgh.
Overs and Pitt. That's all Frank needs.
Yeah, so 12-1. It's a really good basketball team. They've just gotten better as the year has gone along as well. Duke and North Carolina obviously are the best 2 teams in the conference, and I like it. Looking at Duke being the favorite actually at plus 160 makes me feel good because I still have Duke rated higher than North Carolina, and I think Duke will beat North Carolina in the ACC tournament when they match up again, and I hope they do. Creighton, I have a check mark next to them. I think they're the second best team in the conference. Obviously, I love Connecticut, but it's 7-2. That's a really good team. They shoot threes well. They play defense. I think it's a good spot for them, and it was about the highest ones. Oh, Duquesne in the Atlantic 10. 15-1 was a team that I think has a chance to win the Atlantic 10 conference tournament.
Man,
it's another Pittsburgh team.
I was going to say, Frank Nicotero, if he's still here, may come in and give you a kiss on the forehead.
Hey, very interesting, too, because Pittsburgh, they are on the bubble as well. So they need to do well in this tournament. Same with Wake Forest, who has been kind of falling off as of late. But what about the Big Ten? We haven't talked about the Big Ten much at all, and that's because it's been Purdue really over everyone. Illinois has been better. Northwestern actually snuck in there to the 4 seed, right? I believe Wisconsin finally fell off.
Yeah, Northwestern's sneaky good. The one that stood out to me about halfway down, Michigan State at 11-1. This is the third straight year that the Spartans have finished unranked, but they are a very scary team. John Rothstein on Twitter always jokes that they need to rename March Izzo because that's the only month that he's any good, at least as of late. Do you buy Michigan State in this Big Ten tournament at 11-1?
Yeah, he's always been a great coach. Michigan State at 11-1, and I really like Izzo, and I really like him at this time of year. So I would say there is a little bit of value there with him, but the team who I think has the most value is Ohio State. And with them making the coaching change at the right time, this may be the hottest team in the conference, and they're 30-1. Wow. Chris Holtzman lost his job only because they were much better than what was shown on the court. And obviously, to me, it looks like they didn't like Chris Holtzman, and that's why they're playing good basketball right now. So I think they're one of the top 5 teams in the conference. And at 30-1, I think that may be one of the best future bets on the board right now.
That is interesting.
Relatively easy path, too, for them. They'll take on Iowa first.
Remember, they beat
7.
Purdue, too, after the coach was fired.
Yes, they did.
They were at home, but they did beat them. They beat Michigan State on the road. They beat Nebraska. They beat Michigan, who's no win, but they beat Rutgers here at the end. So, yeah, really strong finish, at least with those 2 wins over Purdue and Michigan State. That looks really good.
If Ohio State can play enough defense to get past this hot-scoring Iowa team, I really like their chances as well. That first game, every game make or break, but that one will really tell you a lot about this Ohio State team, especially kind of looking forward to the future in Columbus. You have any other games or picks that you're just itching to get off your chest here before we wrap up?
There's no college baseball. There's only 4 college baseball games today. I know exactly how many games there are each day. That's the sport I'm betting right now the most, and that's the sport I'm paying the most attention to. Yeah.
What are some big differences for you between betting MLB and betting college baseball?
None whatsoever. No, I do the same thing. I rate each player out. I read each player out offensively, how they hit versus righties and versus lefties. And then I rate each pitcher out and how those pitchers do home and away. I think that's very important. College, it's more important than anything, more important than the big leagues. There's not a big difference between pitchers home and away, but a little bit. College, there's a major difference.
Have you been betting UNLV overs?
Every time they got a total up, usually I am, but I did bet the last 2 under in cash because the weather wasn't over weather.
No, they played New Mexico last weekend.
Yeah.
In the second game of the 3-game series, UNLV scored 15 runs and lost by 16. New Mexico just hitting at elevation. They're at like 7,000 feet up there, right across the street.
Yeah, that's always been always been a great hitter's park, and the wind usually is blowing out to right center field in that ballpark. So that park averages about 17 runs per game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Santa Ana Star Field in Albuquerque. Scenic Albuquerque. I was just there a couple weeks ago. We want to thank you so much, Kenny.
Yeah.
It's always fun
Thanks
talking
for having
to you.
me.
I always love kind of getting a glimpse into how Alex started making her power ratings and how she adjusts them, and it's great to see, the man that taught her just about everything she knows. So we want to thank you for stopping by.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, and best of luck to everybody in the NCAA tournament, the conference tournaments, and best of luck in March.
Yeah, it was a nice surprise. We thought we'd have you via Zoom, but it was nice having you in
I had
studio.
lunch right up the street with a friend of mine, Ken Murphy. I'll drop his name because Ken was the first sports fund in the state of Nevada, and he was the only one out of 10 that actually won money, and they shut those sports funds down. I wish they would still they had them going. But, yeah, Ken Murphy, great handicapper. I had lunch with him. A lot of good stories we exchanged today.
I want to do a whole show with you and Vinny. And maybe Jimmy as well, if he's able to. Just some old
Jimmy
Vegas
has the best stories of anybody. I think Vinny's got a lot of them too. I'm sure. But
love the old betting stories, and you guys tell some of the best ones. So we really appreciate you taking some time and stopping by.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
He's Kenny White, the Wizard of Odds, joining us here on Sports by the Book. That'll do it for us today. Another jam-packed day of college basketball betting. Be sure to follow South Point Studios on YouTube and Twitter. For everybody on that side of the glass, actually just Ann and Jerry here to close out the show, and everybody on this side. For Kenny White, Alex White, I'm Matt Neverett saying thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Don't go anywhere. This has been Sports by the Book.